Residents in Houston's 3rd Ward say they are sick and tired of violent crime in their neighborhood.
Today they placed part of the blame on bars all across the city, and they're asking the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, or TABC, to do something about it. Anieli Ruiz joins us live with the latest. Anieli?
Well, that's right. Residents tell us they're fed up and want something done. They say this has been a constant problem here in this area, and so far, nothing is being done.
Enough is enough.
Fed up 3rd Ward residents gathered to voice their frustration.
Banding together to express outrage at increasing violent crime in our community after 5 people were shot in a fight that spilled onto the streets of Blodgett and Ennis last week.
They say violent scenes like this one just keep escalating and are spilling out into their neighborhoods. Sharon Evans Brooks is the president of the Friends of Riverside Park in Houston, and she says some of the bars and clubs are to blame.
A bar and a club is not a completely horrible thing. It's the residuals that come from it.
And although they say not every club and bar in the area is a problem, the trouble spots have some people living in fear.
I don't care where you live, for your house, that you got to be scared to go to the corner. You can't walk your dog. You can't take your baby in a stroller.
But it's not just the violence and crime. This resident lives next to one bar, and she says they have many other problems they deal with every weekend.
Trash has been everywhere. We come outside, people are just being loud, rude, peeing on the floor, on the ground. What else? We've seen people having sexual intercourse. It's just been all sorts of things you can even think of.
The mayor and the chief were at the press conference listening to the concerns.
So we will use the tools that we have to clamp down on establishments, on businesses, bars, clubs, you name it, where there are repeated acts of violence that's taking place that's unacceptable in our city, and we'll be aggressive there.
What it do? This is your brother Bishop of Bishop's Zone TV. In today's topic, I got a serious one today. This one is dealing with something local here in Houston. It's Spivey's nightclub. If y'all familiar with the neighborhood in Houston called 3rd Ward, there was an incident that happened a couple of weeks ago where there was a shooting involved outside in a parking lot outside of a club called Spivey's. So you have Spivey that has been an establishment in the community of 3rd Ward for quite a couple of years now, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, ever since I've been living in Houston, I've been living in Houston since '09, but as far back as I can remember going to 3rd Ward many times, I've seen Spivey's. And this was one of the first incidents, if I'm not mistaken, that this has actually happened outside of the nightclub Spivey's. It's owned by a brother with the last name Spivey. So this is not like a nightclub that promotes ratchet behavior or anything like that. I mean, this is actually, as far as I've known it to be, one of those kind of like upscale nightclubs, a mature adult nightclub lounge in 3rd Ward, you know? So this incident happens where, you know, brothers get to fighting. And I guess it started from the club into the parking lot. They got into the parking lot, then shots happened. I think one brother lost his life. Another rapper, he ended up getting injured, getting bullet wounds. He's in the hospital, you know, rest up. So it was a tragic situation. We've seen far too many incidents like this happen here in Houston. And the response to the shooting incident was an outcry from some community members in 3rd Ward. If you saw the press conference, there were a lot of older residents of 3rd Ward who had a problem with this establishment and other establishments such as this in the neighborhood of 3rd Ward, the community. Houston's mayor, Sylvester Turner, showed up and he said, look, the city will do any and everything to ensure that this community stays safe or will become safer. And so we will do what's necessary in order to basically shut down the nightclub. They are going to shut down the nightclub because of this incident. A lot of people on either side were angry. Like I said, some of the older residents were angry at the nightclub, at the establishment, just at the way things are going on, frustrated, rightfully so. And then you had the response from a plethora of business owners, entrepreneurs, and Mr. Spivey himself, along with his legal team, his lawyers, respond to the pretty much propaganda, the character assassination of Mr. Spivey. Because that press release that the mayor put on with other city officials and other members of the community, elder members of the community, it was a character assassination. Like, make no mistake. They were assassinating this man's character, his business.
He has not committed any crime. He has not been arrested. He has been a model citizen. And to paint this man as the face of violence in Houston is a travesty and it's a disservice to our humanity. And on top of that, his relationship with the community is such that even some of the victims of this crime have spoken out on his behalf and to support his cause.
Now, I'm going to say this. I am not a member of 3rd Ward. I'm just an admirer of 3rd Ward. It's one of my favorite neighborhoods, if not my most favorite neighborhood in the city of Houston. A little backstory. I actually was a part of a community activist group in 3rd Ward. So even though I'm an outsider, I'm very familiar with 3rd Ward. I did a lot of work in 3rd Ward when I first moved to Houston for a couple of years. And then, and even to this day, I always give back in some shape, form, or fashion to Black communities all around Houston, not just 3rd Ward, but the Acres homes. But shout out to the Acres home, the Fofo. That's where my wife's family, they're rooted in Acres home. 5th Ward, Southwest, you name it. I can go down the line, but this show is not about that. But 3rd Ward does have a place in my heart. Even though I'm not a resident and I'm not trying to claim the tray at all, it holds a special place in my heart. That was, like I said, that's one of the first neighborhoods that I really did a lot of community activist work in, became real familiar with a lot of people in that neighborhood. And it's, like I said, it's a very historic neighborhood. It's to me, it's like the heart and soul of the Black community in Houston. It is the most famous Black neighborhood in the state of Texas. And not only that, but it is like, I always describe 3rd Ward as a microcosm of Black America and Black Houston in a small neighborhood in the city, because you have different types of classes of Black people in 3rd Ward. Where some communities where it's just majority overwhelmingly completely Black, or it might be just straight suburbia, middle class, affluency, what have you. This one is a mixture of everything. You have some Black elites that live in 3rd Ward. You have Texas Southern University, HBCU in 3rd Ward. You have, like I said, one of the most famous established restaurants in 3rd Ward, which is Frenchie's. You also have, on the flip side, one of the more popular establishments to go to for Black tourists, especially to go to in Houston, which is the Turkey Leg Hut. And then you also have some downtrodden areas in 3rd Ward. You have Blight in 3rd Ward, but you also have an epic center of culture in 3rd Ward. You have, like I said, you have the National Black United Front. You have Shape Center. These are Pan-African pro-Black organizations that started in 3rd Ward. The Black Panther Party, if I'm not mistaken, that chapter started in 3rd Ward. Rest in peace to Carl Hampton. roots are deep. So the reward is what it is. Spivey, in a lot of ways, his entrepreneurship represents what Third Ward is.
Not only is he a positive role model in our community, he also try to help upcoming entrepreneurs by letting them come in the club and promoting their businesses to help people get their businesses up off the ground. So he's not just out here just trying to look out for himself. He's looking out for the people in his community, that the people that are trying to, get their business off the ground and started. So he has a great big following. So those people coming in here trying to, get their business up off the ground, they have a great opportunity by coming up in here and, promoting their businesses up in here, because it's so many people up in here and he knows so many people. So that's all I have.
So because Spivey represents what Third Ward is all about, a lot of entrepreneurs in the city, in the community of Third Ward and surrounding areas responded back. And they co-signed and they aligned with Mr. Spivey. And they pulled no punches. I was actually watching the press conference. I was proud.
Best in the elderly, right around the corner. He has fed so many people in this community that cannot afford to eat. He has clothed so many people that don't have any necessities or any extra income to provide for their families. He's way more than just a nightclub owner. He's a man of integrity. He has family. He has brothers. He has kids. He has us. And everybody that's watching this needs to understand that a tragic event that happened at a nightclub also happens at our schools, also happens at our churches, also happens at our parks, also happens at our hospitals, also happens at our homes. So why would we as a city come together to sue him and bring him down when he needs someone to come and say, hey, let's fix this as a community. Let's do everything that we can to make sure that a tragic event never happens again. I don't feel that the resolution to this problem is to shut him down. That's showing that anytime something happens, we just shut it down and we close our eyes and when we go somewhere else. This is an example not only for this club, if you're a club owner and you're watching this, because sometimes when things happen, you look at it and you don't think of, I could be next. Right. If you are a club owner, you should be looking at this and saying, we could be next by a simple fight, a simple argument, a simple bump, or something happened in the club can turn tragic when adults don't know how to walk away and go home at night. Let's come together and not break ourselves apart.
So the response to the backlash that Mr. Spivey got for the incident that had nothing to do with him specifically, to me, I thought it was pretty astounding. I was actually proud to see a gang of entrepreneurs, young black entrepreneurs, and other community leaders back Mr. Spivey up, back his establishment up against the city of Houston. He had a lot of support from the community, as you see in these press conferences. He had a lot of support. He has a lot of support. I don't know the brother personally, but like I said, as long as I've been just cruising around Third Ward, being in Third Ward, I have never heard really any incidents that go on with Mr. Spivey. And I've heard some incidents in other clubs in Third Ward, which again, that's why I kind of understand the frustration of the elders in the community. But Spivey is one that I thought that was kind of weird because I've never heard anything personally. Like I said, I don't live in Third Ward, but I'm connected enough to know if it's a certain area, certain establishment, like you might not want to go there. Shit's kind of rough. It's kind of raw. You might not want to hit that up. They be doing the most over there. Mr. Spivey is not one. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And like I said, I just want to say again, very proud of all the people that showed up to support Mr. Spivey. That goes to show you right there that, look, black community can unite. We can come together as one to support establishments that are needed in the community.
Lloyd Ford, owner of the Black Schools.
Daria Savannah, singer in the city, DARIASAVANNAH.
Oh, one more, let them.
Pastor Hall, Terrace Hall, TERRANCE Hall, Kingdom Business Cathedral Church.
Here's the issue I have. It's not with Spivey, it's not with the supporters, it's more so the mayor and the city officials. And I want to see what you all think in the comments as well. In my opinion, and I don't have anything personally against Mayor Turner. I don't want to upset some people because I think I'm going to upset some people with my criticism of how he approached this situation. Because he's a black mayor. He's from Acres Home. So he's a man of the people. A lot of people love Mayor Turner. Again, I have nothing personally against Mayor Turner. But here's the problem I have. In that press conference that Mayor Turner had with some of the elders in that press conference, they use Spivey's establishment and they use Spivey himself as a scapegoat for what's really going on in Houston, which is the rise of crime at an alarming rate here in Houston. They use this brother and his establishment as a scapegoat. They want to make his establishment an example that Houston has it under control. Houston ain't got shit on control. Let me just tell you right now, they don't have shit under control. Now, there's an uptick in violent crime all across America. It's not just Houston. But Houston is kind of, in a way, it's going it's going backwards. Because at the rate that crime is rising here in this city and in the metro area, it's a little different in other cities. And it's something that Houston is doing that, I'm just going to say it for what it is. If you look up north in the state of Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, their numbers are actually going down. You know, this is what trips me out. They had a press conference for this establishment that isn't necessarily known for having violence in his establishment. But then in Third Ward, you have establishments, you have businesses owned by non-black people. You know, like grocery stores, not grocery stores, but you have like these gas stations, these convenience stores, these corner stores owned by non-black people that sell all kinds of liquor, all kinds of foods that devoid people of nutrition, outdated foods, drinks that help destroy our people. You have, and then not only that, but at these same businesses, at these same corner stores that are owned by non-black people, you have these brothers hanging out, doing illegal activity, and the business owners don't do shit. They don't say shit. Let's keep it real. I mean, I hate to say it. It is what it is, but you got junkies just hanging out. And it ain't just Third Ward. Just look at any community. Just look at any black community, predominantly black community in Houston. And you'll see these establishments, you see the corner store, you'll see these corner stores with just a bunch of, I'm just gonna keep it real, bunch of niggas hanging out. Like I said, if I see more than 4 or 5 brothers, shit, really, if I see more than 3 niggas hanging out at a gas station, convenience store, I'm going to another gas station. Fuck that, because there's some shit going on that you don't want to be involved with, or it's just too much going on. They got to look out or something. And nobody's saying shut these places down. They didn't have no press conference for these places where criminal activity does go on to some extent, or is leading up to it. All kind of devices, all kind of things sold in these places that are vices to help self-destruct our people. Now, and I'm not suggesting that they're not putting the Black and Milds and the nicotine and the liquor. They're not forcing you to buy these things. But I'm saying, in the name of pointing fingers, if we're gonna point fingers, let's point fingers at these establishments for destroying our community and not even giving back to our community. Because when brothers were going into these communities, shout out to my homeboy Malik, when they were going into these establishments and telling these business owners, look, y'all need to make sure that y'all have updated products. Stop selling our people these outdated products. Y'all need to put a little bit more money into our communities. Put a little bit more money into the communities that you're serving. If you really want to be a part of the community. And tell these dudes, man, outside, get the fuck on, man. Should nobody see that. Should nobody experience that. Make these places safe havens for the people in our community. Did they get any support from city officials, the mayor? No. They're still operating in Third Ward to this day in every Black community in Houston and probably every Black community all across America. So again, all I'm saying is this. I ain't got nothing personally against Mayor Turner or the city officials. But this is clearly scapegoating. This is clearly showboating. This is clearly just put here to calm the nerves of Houston residents, to suggest that, hey, we got things under control. I'm sorry, Houston. I'm sorry, Houston mayor. I'm sorry, city officials, but you do not have shit under control. If Spivey is to blame for what happened outside of his club, then who's to blame for the increase in road rage incidents here in this city? Who's to blame for the killings on the road? Is it Texas Dot? Maybe let's place the blame in Texas Dot. If we just pointing fingers, you gotta explain it. Every time there's an incident, every time there's an act of violence that goes on in this city, they hold a press conference to say some bullshit. You got the chief of police up there. We're gonna make it stop. We're gonna do this. We gotta come together as a city. We gotta come together. And crime is still happening. People pointing fingers. Well, it's the judges. It's the bails. It's the people that they're letting out. They're letting repeated offenders out on bail. And they're committing more crimes. They're committing more acts of violence. Well, hey, fix it. Wouldn't that be more on the city officials and the mayor than it is on Spivey, Mr. Spivey? I don't know. I'm just saying. Again, me personally, I'm not going to point fingers and say such and such is to blame. The only people who I'm going to hold accountable are the niggas that was in that incident. The niggas that started shooting. The niggas that started fighting. The niggas. It's the same niggas that's committing the acts of violence in our communities. That's who I'm gonna hold accountable. I'm not gonna hold Mr. Spivey accountable unless he was actually involved in the scuffle. Or he was in the background saying, whoop that bitch, whoop that nigga, you better get that nigga. You know he wasn't doing that. I'm just saying. Let's point the finger at those people. Hold them accountable. And guess what? Maybe hold the families accountable for how they raise their children. Hold the city accountable for helping to create such environments for these type of people to breed. But let's not shut down a Black business that is trying to do right by his community. That's all I got. And until next time, get at me. Holla.
Sit behind a desk and make all of these false accusations. Pushing agendas, pushing a ploy to push somebody that has been a pillar, somebody that is my brother. A shining example, exactly. Out of the community. What sisters that make? I mean, it's hard for me to sit here and watch the media destroy this man's character. never had any type of involvement in crime. None of us. My mama had 7 kids. 7. None. None have ever been involved in crime. And for y'all to do something like this, to pick us like this, it's sickening.